Hey, welcome to What Do You Think of This? We are revisiting the best things from our past to let you know whether they're the best things for your future. I'm Jeff Abiad. With me here today in 2025 is Josue Escobar.
Live and in action. 2025, baby.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're at season 2 right now.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy new season.
Yep.
Are you feeling fresh at the start of the new year?
No.
It's a couple days in and I'm tired.
I know. It's so crazy. I think vacation break was very refreshing.
Yeah.
But then I realized how spoiled I am.
What do you mean?
Going back to work one day and then being like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just took a break.
You know,
such a weakling.
The thing that has kept me in perspective is one of our neighbors in our cul-de-sac here must be having some remodeling done in their home that is going through the whole winter season.
Oh, geez.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me in any way, except that every day where we're all casually getting up at whatever time and doing Christmas and stuff, they're up early, working, just doing stuff. And I'm like, wow, yeah, maybe I should be productive.
Yeah, very productive people.
This season, obviously, is a season where it's customary to exchange gifts, you know.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. Not anymore. It's already happened. We've got a few days left. So one of my wonderful relatives, or a gaggle of them, Jennifer, my sister, and her whole family, bought me this bird feeder.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm a fan of birds.
Yeah,
Sometimes they visit the window here in the studio. So she got me this app-controlled bird feeder that has a video camera on it. Did we talk about this already?
No.
Okay. So now, because I already am getting nerdy about the birdies.
Yeah,
right?
Nerdy about the birdies.
Nerdy about the birdies. And so I know we have all the forest behind our house. There are a lot of different birds that come and visit. I now know them, by their species and stuff. I can tell most of them apart.
That's awesome.
I have an app where I'll tag them. This thing will detect them, send me a push notification, video record them, and also tag them. Like, here's a Carolina chickadee, or here's a whatever, all of them. And so, greatest gift, because I'm like, now I get to just watch them come in.
Yeah.
And my ecosystem in our backyard has been in development for a while because we have squirrels that like to come at the bird food.
Oh, I've seen the squirrels. Yep.
Yeah, I hate them.
Fat Gus just chilling.
But we've figured out, how it works. I've got different kinds of seeds in different places. I have the bird feeders hung in certain ways where they really can't get to them, which is kind of a miracle. I won't go into it all.
Yeah.
So I hung this thing and I had to mount it to the deck. It required a drill.
Okay.
So I picked the best possible spot for this. It also has a solar panel for charging, all this stuff. Put
That's
it there.
hilarious.
No problem. Okay. The squirrel occasionally would come out, look at it, and then leave. And I'm like, I won. This is it. Okay. Cut to a few days later. I take my 2 little guys to a dentist appointment. Mm-hmm. It's exciting. It's winter break. Might as well go to the dentist. Yeah. I'm sitting there just waiting, reading a book, and I start getting notifications on my phone. A pet has been detected. A pet has been detected. A pet has been detected. And I open up my phone.
Oh,
Mind you,
squirrels are your pets now.
I can't go anywhere because I'm sitting at the dentist's office with my kids watching this fat squirrel eat over, and I'm going to show you a picture. We're going to have to post it on Instagram or something. Just screenshot after screenshot of this fat squirrel's face right in the camera, taunting me, gone before I could do anything about it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He knew you were out of the house.
I honestly think he knows. And now I can tell you, has breakfast at about 8 a.m. every morning. No joke. Stupid squirrel, as long as he's not coming back. I don't even mind it eating the food.
Hilarious.
It's just, it leaves such a mess.
Yeah. Because they're just grabbing at everything, tossing it around. Yeah. That definitely leave a mess.
Anyway, we have to come up with some new kind of bird seed.
Oh, that's so funny, man.
Or name the squirrel and just adopt it as a pet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I thought, in line with today's episode, maybe an appropriate question would be, because we're going to be talking about Forrest Gump today.
Yeah.
On your suggestion.
My very favorite.
If you could adopt one of Forrest's skills as your superpower, what would it be?
I don't know. Charming the pants off Nixon? I don't know.
Yeah, well... that's not really going to work for you now.
No, I know.
2025.
I sure would like to see that. Okay.
Truly being able to play ping pong to that level.
I was going to say, yeah.
It seems like an awesome skill. I don't know what I'd do with it.
True. I mean, yeah.
World championship.
Win some championships, get $25,000 for advertisement. It's probably the most useful in as far or lucrative, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Maybe running as fast as he did.
Yeah.
Be a running back for like a NFL team and score touchdowns and championships and
We can get into it too once we talk about this movie because
Crazy.
I don't even know how that skill works, but it works. But
what, running fast?
Well, and then the longevity of it because I feel like sprinting is different than marathon running and he covers all of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, okay.
So great.
Before we get into talking about the episode, I have a quiz for you.
Uh-huh.
And this quiz is about famous metaphors. So, because there's obviously one very famous one that comes from this movie, I want to give you a couple other ones. An example would be, I'm just going to have you fill in the blank, a diamond in the...
Rough.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I have some explanations on where some of these come from.
Yeah.
I just pulled a bunch of them, so we'll see how this goes. The pen is mightier
than the sword.
Than the sword. Yes. Okay. Very good. It's raining blank and blank.
Men. Hallelujah.
It's raining men and hallelujah. No. You know this one. It's an expression.
Cats and dogs.
Yeah, it's raining cats and dogs. Do you know where that comes from?
Oh, no, I don't actually know.
What do you think it means?
Like it's just raining a lot?
Yeah, but why cats and dogs?
Because cats and dogs are outside. Maybe in that time period when this came up.
Because the word puddle sounds like poodle?
No. Probably, I mean, because, stray dogs and cats are they're all over the place.
They're everywhere. There's so many of them.
Yeah,
and it's like it's raining.
Yeah.
I heard that because of the development of this expression, there were like thatched roofs and the cats and dogs would maybe hang out up on the rooftop. And then once they got so wet, they would fall through.
Wow.
But I don't know. I mean, none of these things that you can't really...
Do you actually know the origin?
No, I don't.
Oh, that's a good... All right, let us know.
Yeah, if you know the origin.
If you know the origin.
Okay, how about this one? This is a little bit tougher, so I don't know if I got this one right away. Time is a blank.
Oh.
Okay, this metaphor expresses how quickly time passes and how it steals moments
time
from
is
our
a thief.
lives. Yeah.
Time is a thief.
Time is a thief. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh man, I mean it depends. If you're not productive like us, then yeah.
What are you talking about?
You know what I mean?
I think
not getting up at 6 a.m. to work on your house.
Yeah. This movie has a lot to say about just embracing that though.
Yeah.
Okay. The world is your blank.
Oyster.
Very good. Do you know what that means or where it comes from?
Well, there's like a diamond. There's a pearl in an oyster. You know,
opportunities to be seized. That comes from Shakespeare's The Merry Wives of Windsor.
Wow.
Which I am not familiar with.
I'm not really familiar with a lot of Shakespeare stuff. So.
Oh, that surprises me. The early bird
gets the seed from the Abiad house.
No, yeah, that's true. The early squirrel
catches the worm.
Yeah, very good. Okay, that one's, I think, once I started reading through these, I thought, it's strange how many of these I just know.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I don't even know that I say them all the time. This is just how the English language works.
It's in media, it's in culture, it's in the zeitgeist, right? I mean, you watch different movies, different media, all this. These things are just passed on and on and on.
We, for Christmas this year, or maybe before then, I don't know, somehow one of the activities we got into while we were just sitting around the house together doing nothing is we have this book of just trivia, not even trivia, just sort of random quizzes, but like word games. And I feel like I remember little to nothing of most things. Like my memory of history, I have to remind myself what happened in my own life, and just simple facts that it seems like normal adults know. When we watch this movie and my kids start asking me questions about Vietnam, I'm like, I'm gonna have to look that up. But then when it came to this book of just random quotations from old movies that I've never seen, I knew every one.
It's so crazy.
Like, how do I know this information? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple more and then we'll call it. You can have your cake and you can't have your cake
and eat it too.
Yeah. Do you know what that means? I don't know that I ever thought about this expression until I wrote it down.
Well, I mean, it's like you can't always have it your way and have things come out exactly how you want it or something like that. I don't know. It's one of those like
you're on the right track. I
you're
think
kind of spoiled, kind of like if you made the decision to be a traitor, whatever, like abandon your friends or backstab somebody.
I wasn't sure if you said traitor or trader. I was
Trader.
like, oh, you're going into the marketplace.
Trader
to sell your wares.
Joe's.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do that, well, you can't do that and think the outcome is gonna be okay or people are gonna be okay with you after the fact, kind of thing.
I say you got it. But here's my other question: what do you think it literally means? Why cake? So, like cats and dogs, what does it mean you can't have your cake and eat it too?
Well, because if you're gonna make a cake, you're doing it for other people, and people will eat it all up before you even get a chance to get a piece.
But So, and when I read the description, the person that wrote this said, you can't literally if you have the cake and you want to keep the cake, you can't eat it. But if you want to eat the cake, you will no longer have it.
Oh, that's deep.
So it's like two good things. You can have this beautiful cake or you can eat it, but you can't have the cake and eat it too. And I thought, that makes complete sense. I probably said this before and never thought about that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you have a treasure, you can either, keep it and it won't bring you anything because it's just a treasure to look at.
You can look at it.
Or you can sell it, spend it to survive, to eat, though, whatever. You can't have both. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I like that.
I'll give you a couple more. All that glitters is not
gold.
That's right.
All that glitters is gold. Every shooting stars break the mold. What song is that? Where's that from?
Well, I was going to say from Shrek, but it's...
it is, yeah, you're right.
It's Rockstar.
Is it Smash Mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say Chumbawamba.
Chumbawamba.
I don't know why. Okay. Here's the last ones to close it out. Don't bite the...
hand that feeds you.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Here's my last one. Life is a blank of blank. You never blank what you're blank. I
feel like I should have beep the entire time. Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
I love Forrest Gump. Personally, I saw this movie in the theater in high school. It was a date. It happened to be in the midst of an incredible thunderstorm, and the theater lost power for about 5 minutes in the middle of the movie. And we lost about 10 minutes of the movie that they never came back and played, that I didn't see till later on. But what I think about the movie is this. It's incredible. To me, it's not really about him, in my opinion. It's about just life happening around you. And if you just kind of go with it, you'd never really know what's going to happen. Do I think it's translated to the future or to current times? I think that story is true anytime. I think that if we're just open and ready to say yes to whatever's around us, great things can happen. I think there's always people watching you that you don't realize are watching you. And the thing about Forrest Gump is he had a huge impact on every single person he came into contact with, even though he was only focused on what was in front of him and not the people around him.
Today we're talking about Forrest Gump.
Yes, we are.
Jenny.
He was obsessed.
This movie,
Jenny.
Do you know what year it came out?
1998.
Oh, not too far off. 1994.
94. Oh, okay.
You know, it's around the same time, but I think about that because in my life at that point, I was 12. You were 9?
Yeah.
I mean, depending on where it came out in the year.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So
crazy.
When did you first see this?
Man, it's funny. Elizabeth asked me the same question after we watched it. I must have seen it at home because I was too young. I must have seen it to go to theater and all that. So I must have seen it. I know I saw it on VHS because I seem to remember, having to take the movie out of the cardboard sleeve to put it in the VHS.
Official movie, so it wasn't recorded. It was like a purchased.
Yeah, and I think my dad bought it. You know how back in the day you would go to the store, Walmart, and you would walk by the huge bin of like clearance movies.
Yeah, they still exist.
Do they really?
It's just Blu-rays now and DVDs.
Yeah.
It's still there.
But it was a stack.
Yeah.
And it would just, I think it was one of those.
Oh, I remember going to like Hollywood Video and they would be selling their extra movies once it wasn't a new movie anymore. And it'd be like, pick 3 of these for this amount.
It might have even been something like that too. Because I doubt my dad would have bought it brand new and kept it. I think he probably always waited for it to be like on clearance or something like that.
Okay, so we're season 2 into this
crazy.
podcast. And I just want to, if somebody's copping in for the first time, give a little backstory, which is I've got a bit of a sheltered upbringing when it comes to media, okay? And what was appropriate or not appropriate in the Abiad household. Keeping that in mind, also, we moved across the country when I was about 10, so a couple of years before this, and kind of started fresh. So we didn't have a whole lot of stuff, furniture, it was all brand new. And there was about 2 years in there where we didn't own a TV.
Wow.
And I think this came out around then. So between that and it just probably not being the type of movie that, it's like not necessarily for little kids.
Yeah.
You probably need an average older audience to watch it. I never saw this. I heard it quoted all the time because obviously it's so quotable. It was
When
everywhere.
did you actually see it?
I don't think it was until maybe late high school, early college. And that is after in high school, we played in the school band, like the concert band, a mashup of songs. And I think even our vocal ensemble sang, because there's so many songs. All the leaves are brown, the leaves are...
The soundtrack for this movie is amazing.
Oh, it's so good. There are just so, like, everything will come up and you're like, oh yeah, I know this. My kids are really enjoying that.
Yeah.
So all that, and I'm like, I need to see this. But it is not the type of movie that I would have deemed appropriate as a young, reserved, like, Christian child.
Yeah. Well, if you're just hopping into season 2 and have listened and don't know, and if you do go back to listen to season 1, you'll find out my parents pretty much let me watch anything at whatever age I was.
They called you into the room to watch Chucky.
Hey, come here. Get traumatized by this. So yeah, that was really weird.
So you saw this in the confines of your own home.
Oh yeah,
I did not.
For sure. And I I've seen this movie so many times now too that it's really hard to remember like parts of my life and where I was at in parts of my life when I watched this movie. I just remember, like, I know I quoted it a bunch of times with my brothers. I quoted it a bunch of times, in different circles of friends and things like that, and talking about it, and even watching behind the scenes and interviews, all that type of stuff. So it's really hard to like, when was the first time I saw this? Because I feel like I've grown up with these characters. It's crazy. So
I know it so little. I think I've seen it through less than 5 times for sure, but honestly, maybe only a couple. Yeah. And so even last night, when we just watched it last night with the whole family, I'm like, I got my littler kids there, and I know there are a couple things that I probably don't want them watching, but I don't even know when to skip it. I'm like, Amanda knew, so she knew the movie a little bit better than me. But before we get on to the content, I will say, I thought even coming back to it, realizing that it's Alan Silvestri that does the music, which is huge because he's been involved in so many things. Like the music is quality, okay? And then you bring together this cast of characters. Tom Hanks. Yeah. And this is like his era. I mean, he's been around for a while. Yeah. He's been involved in so many, just household name
He was
movies.
In The Burbs, Splash.
Wait, of all the things, I've never even seen The Burbs.
It's a really good movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is Walter.
I don't know that quote. Anyway, there's a lot of his movies I haven't seen, but I feel like a lot of his that I have, not this.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And, okay, so he's in it, Gary Sinise.
Yeah.
Which,
oh my gosh.
My kids kind of recognized him, but I don't know why, because I'm like,
probably
I'm not
from
sure
Apollo 13?
No, we haven't seen that either. I've seen it. My kids haven't. Stuff like that. Okay. And then you got Sally Field.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I could not imagine her not being in this movie. It's crazy.
No, I know.
Yeah, every scene she's in, she like just carries it.
And Robin Wright.
Yep, Robin Wright. She was in House of Cards.
Yeah.
It's funny because I watched House of Cards not knowing she was Jenny because she looks so different.
Really?
Yeah. It was wild when I found out. I'm like, wait, somebody was like, that's Jenny from Four. I'm like, no way. Yeah. She acts completely differently. Wow.
At some point last night, Lucy turned to Justice, and it just kind of came up, and she's like, "That's Woody." About Tom Hanks. Yeah. And I'm like, it took a while for it to calculate. And I said to Lucy next to me, like, look, watch, his brain is breaking. His brain is breaking. Because his face was going like,
Who?
Wood, Justice.
Oh, Justice.
As it was dawning on him, because he talks so different in this movie. You wouldn't know unless you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there was a couple points where you're like, oh yeah, that's Woody. When he was yelling at the drill sergeant, everyone's like, oh yeah, that sounds like Woody.
Yeah, you can't really hold that accent while you're yelling.
No. Right? Yeah, I was going to try. I can't even. Okay, let's go. Okay, and maybe just to set up the whole plot of this movie, because I think the idea that this movie became a success is rather surprising.
Well, it was a book first, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
I did read that.
The book is even more wild.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't. So there is a Netflix show called The Movies That Made Us, and they cover Forrest Gump. Okay. It's I would recommend watching that one.
That episode.
They just talk about all the ways that this movie probably shouldn't have been made.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, not that shouldn't have been made, but all the things that were working against it becoming complete.
Yeah, I heard that the budget got cut.
Yeah, and Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks both put up $1 million of their
own money. Okay,
to finish the movie, to do the sequence where he's running.
And I didn't even say that. Robert Zemeckis, who for so many things, not least of which is Back to the Future.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is different, but also you can feel where this is coming from the same mind.
Yeah.
What else was him? I wrote down Castaway, Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
which I didn't
realize. So I'm like, oh, okay, these are all movies that I'm like, oh, they're very watchable.
Yeah.
So when you come to the plot of this story, which is, I don't know, do you want to lay out the plot real quick?
Yeah, it's a biography of a simple-minded man. I'm not sure what his issue is. I don't know if it's what do you call it?
So like on the autism spectrum.
Yeah, autism. But basically, people all his life are ask him the question, are you stupid or something? And his response is, "Mom,
stupid is as stupid does."
I guess. But yeah, the plot of the movie, he is sitting at this, it's iconic now, park bench, waiting for the bus, and he just strikes up conversation with people and starts telling his story, to complete strangers. And it's really funny in the movie, he just keeps talking, and then somebody else will appear on the park bench.
Yeah.
You could just imagine he just keeps going.
He's just going.
While somebody goes, okay, I get, this is my bus, and leaves him there talking while somebody else just scoots over and goes, okay, keep talking.
Yeah. And Clark at some point asked me, he's like, is this whole movie going to be him talking about what he did, or is he ever going to do something? And I'm like, oh, well, it does. I did remember that, but it's most of the movie is him just narrating things from his past. Yeah. And unbelievable things.
And I love the way, Robert Zemeckis he does this really, really funny thing.
Yeah.
Where he will say, Bubba knows everything there is to know about shrimping. And then the actual character says, I know everything there is to know about shrimping. I love how he does that kind of simple way of telling the story, or making you think oh, that's dumb. You just repeated the same line. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, that's how Forrest would tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good.
It was a really entertaining way to let this story develop. And also the elements of the story were very surprising.
Yeah.
From the beginning. And I'm watching this again. I haven't seen this a ton at all. And my kids have never seen it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this is going to hold their attention. I just don't even remember the plot beats. But it got them from the start. And you know which part? It was when he's just at the intro talking about how he got his name. And he's like, I was just named after a, Confederate or whatever general or whatever it is, Forrest. Yeah. And then he kind of alludes to the fact that he was in the KKK.
Oh, he's like, well, he was the founder of the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah. And they wore hoods and acted like ghosts or spooks or something.
Yeah. And from that moment, it's in the first minutes of the movie. I heard Ephraim laugh, it hit him because it was supposed to.
Yeah,
that's what you're don't you know? We're all feeling you should know.
But he says that his mom was like, she named me that so we could remember.
We all make mistakes or something like that.
Remember. I'll do some really dumb things sometimes. But so the movie is him telling a story. That's how he starts off, where he got his name. And, just the different things that have occurred to him. You know, he has like a crooked back. He's like, his back is as crooked as a politician.
Yeah.
But we're going to straighten him out. So he's got braces on his legs. He has to go through that challenge. Throughout the movie, different things happen to him that that become always this like providence and always becomes like something beneficial to him. Like things happen. Like he meets the president of the United States 3 times, you know, because of being a state football champion.
Yeah.
Right. And then
the military awards.
The military award, the Purple Heart,
the
Congressional Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
He gets that. And then he goes back to meet him again because he's a ping pong champion for the Army. So all these things happen, and it's like this wild, like these things could never happen to anybody, but they do. And then at the same time happen to someone so simple.
Yeah. And I love the device of his relationship with Jenny because he meets her very early on. She's the one that allows him to sit next to her on the bus when they're kids. And then they have this relationship over the course of their whole life where she, you know, is kind to him and understands him and almost like protects him. She's the one that tells him to run, right?
Yeah.
But she's living in awful circumstances. Like her whole life situation is really devastating.
Yeah.
You know, but she's always there as this person who kind of makes a way. Both Jenny and his mom, where Jenny's kind of that comforting spot, and his mom is that too. And his mom just tells him, you know, just encourages him to persevere.
Yeah.
And I think over the course of this movie, he's making decisions to press through, like as confident as he is telling stories at the bus stop, to just do it. Like it's not a matter of complaining like about my situation. I'm in the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting shot at. Something bit me. You know, he's just, I'm going to do it. And my friend's back there. I'm going to go get, here's somebody else. He just keeps doing things.
Yeah.
Rather than getting stuck by limitations.
Or what people expect of you.
Yeah. Expectations.
You know? Yeah, so for me, I feel like I've grown up with these characters, and watching it this past week, there were so many things about it that just like, for me, it just makes me kind of emotional.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Like he gets onto the bus the first time when he's a little kid, and they're all just like, no, you can't sit here.
Yeah.
This seat's taken, you know? And, you know, he hears Jenny's voice for the first time, and he's just taken back. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, we're like peas and carrots, you know? You know, she taught me how to read. I taught her how to dangle, you know, that kind of stuff. It's like, wow. And yeah, it's funny because I feel like this movie does a few things. It kind of really encapsulates like what the 60s, 70s were kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like the early 80s kind of era, like, you know what I mean? The mid to late 70s.
Yeah.
It has like that vibe of really well of each of those like eras.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, it almost feels like a couple of different movies in one. Like you have this adventure kind of feel to it.
His whole life journey, all these crazy things.
Yeah. And then you also have like these really deep, like life type retrospectives or introspectives of like, you know, life, because he's talking when he goes to Jenny's house and he goes to look for her, and he's like, Jenny's dad was a really loving man. Because he would always kiss on her and always hugging on her or whatever. And as an adult, you know, watching, you're like, oh my gosh, this simple kid doesn't know what the heck is going on. And it really makes you think about people's lives that way, you know, like, oh man, like this could really happen to somebody, you know? And there's innocence in all of that. So you go through these beats, you even go through the beats of like him wanting something good, wanting to do something with Jenny. Like he's in love with Jenny. He's like, why don't you let me be your boyfriend? I'd take care of you. But she's like, nope, I'm just gonna go the other way and get into abusive relationships and mistakes and all this crap. And, you know, you tend to like want to hate her a little bit. And then when he's like, they're sending me to Vietnam, she's like, oh crap, hold on, Forrest, like if you get into trouble, run. Okay. Yeah. She like cares a little bit. She does care, yeah. You know, and he's like, okay, I'll do that. And you know, like you said, he just does that. One of my favorite scenes is when he's like, Bubba, And this is one of those production things too. Like this is one of my favorite scenes. It cuts to Bubba and they're all working on their rifles.
Yeah.
Like breaking down the rifle.
And Bubba's still talking about all kinds of shrimp.
Yeah, he's like...
fried shrimp and coconut shrimp.
Yeah.
Shrimp on a skewer. And
shrimp sandwich.
Shrimp sandwich.
So it's
butter shrimp.
It's on Bubba. All the soldiers are all like breaking down the camera starts off on him.
Yeah.
Zooms out and then eventually unfocuses off of Bubba and goes right onto Forrest. And he's done because the camera, they obviously know what's happening, right? They know he's going to finish putting together his gun. It goes to Forrest. Forrest goes, done, drill sergeant.
Done, drill sergeant.
And he's like, Gump, why did you take apart that gun so fast? And he goes, because you told me to, drill sergeant.
Drill sergeant.
He's like, if it wasn't such a waste of the military, I would recommend you to OCS. You will be a general someday. Now proceed. And then he goes right back to putting his breaking down the gun again, and then it goes right back to Bubba. Like that simple move of the camera coming out, that portion, coming back in onto Bubba. Like it's so simple but really effective.
Yeah.
And it shows like how he's doing his task, what he's told, while other characters are just, I don't know, doing something else, right? They're doing their thing, but their minds are on something else. Like they're just a mile a minute, but he's just like, nope, I've got to do this because this is what I was told to do. You know?
I think that's what this movie does well. And I don't know how that is in the book. I imagine a lot of it is from there, you know? It's like The Godfather where you're like, oh, this is really well thought out. And you realize, okay, there's a lot more in the story, maybe. But what Zemeckis does too is it gives you a snapshot of humanity and grounds you. And like you said, in these time periods and historical events, and even just genuine, real human experiences, whether it's Jenny's, growing up, or it's, even Bubba's, like how people react around him, or all that stuff is all like, you can feel that as a human, how you feel that kind of connection to those things.
Yeah.
But then you just get him in spite of all that,
Yeah.
So, when he's on the football field running and they're ridiculing him, but he's just doing what he does.
He sure is a running fool.
I love when he takes out the marching band, members and then keeps running.
He must be the stupidest son of a bitch. But he sure can run.
And then whenever the next one is where he runs and runs and runs, but then he stops immediately.
They're like,
in the end zone.
stop. No, even the people in the stands turn it to stop. It's so good.
But then it keeps cutting back. Like you get when he finds Jenny in that nightclub or whatever, which is one of those gotta skip through it scenes.
Yeah, and he's like, she did it. She made her dream come true.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, no, it's not really her dream.
Yeah, and so that's why I think her character is such a good one, because you get another person in kind of similar life circumstances just being what we might consider not a normal average human, but sort of like it's just a person who life is like on them and they're kind of succumb to it, where he's like got so much opposition, but is somehow pressed through.
I know. It's amazing. Even that whole thing where he saves his platoon, a bunch of his platoon, even Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan's character, that's a wild character.
Yeah.
That's such an amazing part of the whole story. Well, so here's where this part of the movie when he's in the military is like, he does what he's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But then at the end, he does something he wasn't supposed to do or wasn't told to do, which was save people.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where that came from that character.
Well,
although he has a kind heart.
It's do the right thing.
You
kind of get the vibe that his mom is always instructing him, like, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Do it. And once he hears the instruction, there's no question.
Exactly.
Just like the drill sergeant. You told me to do this. I'm doing it.
Yeah. So he's like, he's going back for Bubba, but every time he sees another person, he's like, I have to save them. Okay. And when he finds Bubba, regular people, normal people, when you find someone like that in that stage and you kind of know, oh, this person's a goner, you don't automatically say that to them. But he sees Bubba and he's like, oh, Bubba, no.
Yeah.
And Bubba's like, oh, gosh. He now has to be the one going, oh, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not. It's this like really I don't know, really grounded, real. I would imagine anybody in his situation, whether or not you're his mental state, would, I feel like you would do the same type of thing. You know, maybe you do it once or twice, maybe not how many times he did it, because you're going to, you know, there is a self-preservation of like, I shouldn't do this because I'm going to die.
Right.
But if you do it once and you find somebody and you go back, you'll be like, well, at least I saved one person.
Yeah.
But no, not him. He's like, I'm going to keep going until I find Bubba. Even when he's like, they're going to blow up the entire area. Don't go.
Yeah. You get the sense like and I was going to say his moral compass, but I don't even know that it's a question of morality for him as it is. It's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Again, here's my instruction manual. I've been told what to do. This is what I do. So even when he responds, when Jenny is first, he sees her at her college or whatever, making out in the car with that guy or whatever's going on. He goes and he assaults him because he's reading it a certain way, right? And then she comes and she sort of gives him sort of pseudo instruction of like, oh no, that's fine or whatever. And he kind of adjusts, but you can still, like when she's with the Black Panthers or whatever. And he comes in and he's like, you can tell he's like, keep him back, but then he sees that guy cross a line that you don't cross and he goes at him.
Yeah.
It's like those things don't change for him, but it's never an emotional response either.
That's
like,
true.
You don't ever see him express emotion outwardly just because of how he is, his temperament. But then you see him like so pent up with emotion that he literally runs for 3 years. He's like, I just started running, you know?
For no particular reason.
For no particular reason.
There's so many moments in each of the eras, I guess, of his life, right? That I just love so much. He's super innocent. The thing of like him not showing emotion is like 100%. You know, I guess he's bottled it up. The only time he showed emotion was at the end when he meets his son. Yeah. Yeah. When he meets his son.
Which made that so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, the acting, so Tom Hanks, I mean, forever, this has got to be like one of the best acting moments that he's had in his career. I don't know.
And that's what I mean when we were talking about at the start, like so unexpected.
Yeah.
Even just the accent, even just the voice and the accent.
Do you know how that came about?
Well, tell me, because I had read that he had sort of based it off of what the kid actor did.
Yeah.
Was that it?
So they had this kid actor who plays Forrest, the young Forrest.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get that kid to speak normally or speak in a certain way, and he just couldn't. And so Tom,
because he already had the Southern accent?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Tom was like, well, why don't I just talk like him? And he doesn't have to change.
Yeah.
And he embellished it some, whatever, but he basically did that. But yeah, but that scene at the end when he meets his son, the thing that gets me every single time is he steps back. You know, just that simple, oh gosh, I just got hit with this information. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And now doesn't know what to do with the emotions. He just lets it out, but he takes a step back. Mm-hmm. Like, it's almost like a deep breath.
Yeah.
You know? And
similarly, I think
so
kind
good.
of to what you're saying, when he asks Jenny why she doesn't love him, right? After she's kind of gone through all her thing and this is, you know,
he's like, will you marry me?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, you don't think I know what love is. Yeah. But then he walks outside. Same thing. It's like this emotion is there and he puts his hands like he does on his back and he's just standing there.
Iconic.
But it's so well done with just such a small gesture.
Yeah. It's so cool. It's so good. I could talk about this movie for hours. I mean, this is how long was this movie? 2 hours? 3 hours?
A little over 2 hours. Yeah. I will say, like, some of my, favorite moments are when they tie him into historical events. And it's funny because in 1994, the ability to do whatever via CGI, especially on a limited budget, would have been so difficult. But here he is. First of all, with Lieutenant Dan's legs. That's a whole other thing.
Oh, they did such a flex. So I guess let's, if we hit a little bit of the production value of this movie, they were doing some stuff that was like pretty new at the time. Mm-hmm. Well, some people had already done it and the techniques were there, but they did such a flex. The scene where Lieutenant Dan is on the floor after the New Year party.
Yeah.
He's on the floor. There's a table next to him, like a coffee table, whatever. It looks like a big old spool type of table.
Uh-huh.
He's right next to that. He's on the ground. Robert Zemeckis, what his name is? What's his?
Robert Zemeckis?
Yeah, the actor.
No, the director.
The director. No. The actor was
Gary Sinise?
Gary Sinise.
Oh, okay.
Has legs. He's not he's not a paraplegic, people. Not a paraplegic. An amputee, sorry.
No, I have something I'll tell you right when you're done with this.
He swings his body towards the table where you would think his legs would hit the table.
Yeah.
And so they do that on purpose.
Totally.
They go, we know how to do this. Let's do this. And just make people go, what? How did they do this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's an awesome YouTube page that I follow called Corridor Crew or Corridor Digital.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of broke down how they did that.
Oh, yeah.
It's so awesome. So anyway, but that's one instance of like the technology and the CGI that they use to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, on an OLED TV at home with digital, you can kind of see
but
some
it's
of
not bad.
It's not bad. Back in the day, if you're watching this on VHS, you're like, how did they do that?
Right.
He even does the same type of thing when he's on the boat and he swings his legs again. Like, what in the world?
I like that line where he's like, I thought I'd try out my sea legs.
Yeah. You ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
You ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
I know that.
When
you sent me a letter, you idiot.
When we first meet Lieutenant Dan, and Lucy's comment just out of the blue was like, oh, he's short. You know, because you see Forrest and him, and I'm like, oh, you wait. She's like,
you wait.
She thought a shorter person was coming into whatever. And then once she sees him on the bench, she's like, because it was so unexpected. I'm like, see, I told you. She's like, what are you? Oh, so I didn't know you meant that. I'm like, yeah, that was unexpected.
Oh my gosh.
So that was good too. And I also read that as far as CGI goes, that the animation of the feather, which you can kind of tell that too, but it was a real feather, but they just used CGI to kind of connect the dots in between movement to make it do certain things.
Yeah, I forget how many times you see a real feather and the fake feather in and out. It's pretty wild. And then the transition from the fake feather when it lands on his foot to the real feather, it looks seamless. I tried to pause it a few times to see if I could tell when the switch happened, and it's so hard to find.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell, like you said, on a newer TV, but that was still pretty, the fact that they would take the time.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, on a limited budget. But I was looking for this because I had read that the explosion that they used in Vietnam when the napalm is dropped was a real explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah. That the scene was shot in a field in South Carolina because the owners of the land were just planning on clearing it out to build like a golf course or something.
Yeah.
But I also read that because it had to be done in one take. It was like one thing. And Robert Zemeckis happened to be in the bathroom when they shot it.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Have you ever watched Tropic Thunder?
No.
Okay. So there's a scene in Tropic Thunder where they drop napalm. They're doing a whole Vietnam scene in this movie in the beginning. And not the director, but the main actor, Robert Downey Jr., one of the main actors, he is in the toilet, in the porta potty when that happens.
Is that a reference to this?
I believe so.
Really?
Yeah, I believe
That's
it's a
funny.
reference to like, an actor or director missing like the big explosion scene, you know?
Yeah.
But it's funny because they filmed Forrest and Bubba running through.
Yeah.
And then they do the same shot.
Oh,
camera.
certainly. Yeah. You're not going to want to be there actually when it explodes.
Yeah, but they put them together, which is I think they do that. That's how they did the scene with Lieutenant Dan on the ground, swinging his legs through the table. They filmed the room with the table there, and then they filmed him doing that same thing, and they comped them both together.
Well done.
Yeah.
Some of the, presidents' mouths moving when you're like, okay, I can tell.
That was,
that wasn't real.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, I don't know why it tickled me, maybe because I didn't remember the scene of him sitting next to John Lennon. On who's the host of that late night show? I was going to say Jerry Parr.
Kangaroo Jack or something like that.
Wait, what?
Something kangaroo? I don't know. He says something about I don't know.
No, not the talk show though, where he's there with John Lennon. Anyway, I just wasn't expecting John Lennon to be sitting next to him. I thought, oh, that's already funny to me that you're on this show next to John Lennon. But then that in their conversation, they write the lyrics to the song, Imagine. Did you get that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's probably over, my kids' heads and didn't stop it or whatever. But I thought that's really funny.
I can't imagine it. You can if you try.
Yeah. So great.
Imagine all the people. Anyway.
So, but that's this movie. It feels like a culmination of a lot of those tiny little details. Boom, boom, boom.
Which was your favorite interaction with him and which president? Which president is your favorite interaction?
Okay, well, the fact that he dropped his pants
with Johnson.
Was so funny. And then what was his interaction with Nixon?
When he drinks all the Dr. Peppers.
Oh, that's right. And
how do you feel? Being an All-American, how do you feel? I gotta pay.
No, that was Kennedy.
Oh, that was Kennedy. Yeah. Nixon was, where are you staying? And he's like, some whatever hotel. And he's like, no, I got a better hotel. My people will contact you.
And then he blows the whistle on Watergate. Yeah. And again, this was there were so many historical things like this that I know because I'm a human adult in America. That's 40, whatever. But my kids are like, I had to kind of explain it. And then I realized the limitations of my ability to synthesize, Watergate in 2 sentences.
Yeah, the Watergate scandal.
I'm like, this is just, they're doing something illegal they're not supposed to be doing, and the president's involved. It's like really quick because it's like the next thing is happening.
Yeah, and they cut really fast to him going, I'm resigning and Ford's going to come in. Like, oh, geez, so crazy.
Also, and I was just so, it caught me by surprise too, how many assassination attempts on presidents, which I think was the
time
point.
Period, yeah.
Of
crazy.
them showing it like that one after the other.
Well, yeah, a few months later, that young president was shot and killed. And then his brother.
Yeah.
And he said, it must be hard being brothers. I wouldn't know.
Yeah. But they did that. That was the other thing they thought they did really well, is they would put you into a serious moment like that makes you feel.
That's what I'm saying. This movie has that like comedic, funny like thing. But then it has like this real emotion, realness that, they do such a great job with that. It's incredible.
It is, and I appreciate that more now. I think when I saw it as a younger person, I don't know. I've certainly some of that stuff I didn't get, but maybe didn't even want, to sit in that space because it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's like when you're watching somebody's life, especially the Jenny character that's so sad and devastating.
I know.
And her interaction with Forrest, and you're feeling for him because you're like, you want him and her to get together and whatever, because you see that and then you see all these decisions being made. It's just like, it's really almost wounding to watch.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't like this, but there's a lot of payoff as far as the story goes when you get to the end.
I know.
It really, no, so I will say I would genuinely like teared up when he's standing at her grave.
Yeah.
And you get that culmination of all that.
Yeah.
And of course the son
He's
thing.
so smart, Jenny.
Yeah. I'm like,
you'd be so proud.
And that was really emotional. But then I think right after that, they cut right to the school bus.
Yeah.
And, and I'm like, all of a sudden I was like, okay, I can take a breath. Just really well done back and forth there.
I know. And I mean, yeah. And just the way they're able to kind of, man, the character arcs that they do. I mean, Forrest, his character arc doesn't really change. He's like the same kind of.
He just accumulates a lot of experience doing whatever.
Exactly. But then you see the character arcs of the people most closest to him, Lieutenant Dan and Jenny. Mm-hmm. Lieutenant Dan goes from, I'm supposed to die on the battlefield. You cheated me. When he's mad at Forrest, he drags him to the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, you cheated me from my destiny. And he's like, do you know what it's like not to be able to use your legs? And that's one of those things that I felt like a lot of people do sometimes, is judge another person's life or judge that, like put something on them and don't know their backstory. Because he's saying, you don't know what it's like to not have legs. And Forrest is like, well, yes, sir, I do.
Yeah.
But because he didn't bother to ask, hey, what was your life like when you were a kid?
Right.
And sometimes we don't do that with people. And then he just gets offended. He's like, did you not hear what I just said? And he's like, he doesn't understand that Forrest has been through stuff, maybe not as tough as literally losing your legs, but same. Yeah. I had braces on my legs. He didn't know how to say that or whatever. So there's these really like real big human moments of just what life is with different people.
Right.
And just the character arc that he goes from being this bitter, worn war guy, right? And that scene where, the New Year's Eve at the bar, where he's just sitting there, blank stare, depressed, like what in the world? And Forrest is just like, Happy New Year, Lieutenant Dan. But yet that whole scene happens with those two girls, and she calls Forrest stupid. He's like, don't you call him stupid.
Okay, I missed some of that. I was skipping through, but I got the gist.
He's like, I'm sorry I ruined your New Year's Eve party. He's like, she tasted like cigarettes.
Oh, ugh.
And but it's true. So he's also clinging on to this kid, for all intents and purposes, Forrest, because he feels like he can still help him because he's technically smarter. Not like simple.
Which is kind of like Jenny, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
But then he's like there watching him from the back of the church, you know?
Yeah.
And just observing the consistency of Forrest's life and all that he's doing until, like you said, really slowly his character arc kind of flips around where by the end he's got his new titanium legs, you know, and was she his fiance?
Yep.
Who I assume is Vietnamese.
Susan. Yeah, she's either Vietnamese. Yeah, she's Asian.
But to tie that in, like, because they were fighting in Vietnam and...
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just the character arc of Lieutenant Dan being so angry. And then I love the scene where he's like, where's your God at now? And he's like, and then right then God ain't showed up. Yeah. And Lieutenant Dan is so at the very top of the thing of the ship, super angry. But then they end up being the only shrimp boat to be able to shrimp, and they make all this money. And the old man is like, are you telling me you're the owner of the biggest
Bubba Gump shrimp company? Yeah, whatever.
We're sitting next to a millionaire. He goes, would you like to see his picture? And she's like, yeah, sure.
And it's on the Fortune 500 magazine. Yes, I was great.
Oh,
I don't know how to say enough how much I just love those moments. And even the fact that, that guy runs off laughing and then that old woman stays at the bus stop. Like, you have all this stuff happening simultaneously.
Her face, she did such a great job selling the fact that she was like, oh, he's being serious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then her character, like, isn't that you say we're getting on bus number 7 or whatever? And she's like, oh, I'm sure another one's going to
come around shortly. Yeah,
for all those details, you know, so well done. And then for him to be pulling out, like, it comes to the end of him telling the story that he's now coming to visit Jenny.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you don't need to get on a bus. It's, you know,
5 blocks down that way.
For them
to ride down that way. Ride down that way.
Oh, man. I don't know if I'd have time to read the book because I'm in the middle of so many books right now, but I just am curious how much of that stuff was there already.
I wonder, I don't know.
What they added in visually.
Well, from that one episode of that Netflix special, Netflix, series, whatever, they made it seem like the book was pretty wild, pretty crazy, that they kind of took a lot of liberties. So maybe the book is very wildly different. I mean, the whole thing with Jenny at the end where she's sick, I think in the book it's hepatitis C. And then for the movie, they made it the HIV/AIDS virus.
Yeah.
Because they said it's a virus, but in the book it's something different.
Yeah.
I think for the time, to make it fit with like...
Sure.
The time of the time period.
I did read though, and when I was going through all these like trivia facts, I have some others.
I mean, he goes into space with a monkey in the book. How do you do?
I was going to say for her character though, I read that they had filmed a scene where she runs over her dad with the tractor.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and they took it out because they thought, well, obviously you can't really root for this person if they're a murderer.
Yeah,
but
real.
I think I was skimming through a bunch of facts.
That's probably why they bulldozed the house at the end.
Yeah. But yeah, they pulled it, but it might be like an extra scene available on like a Blu-ray or something.
Yeah, probably. So I love the fact that Forrest and Lieutenant Dan, like their story, how Lieutenant Dan invests some of their money into Apple stock.
Yes,
and he tells them the fruit company calls me up, tells me we don't have to worry about money no more. He's like, good, one less thing.
Yeah,
and since I was a gozillionaire, I cut that grass for free.
Yeah, and he's just running around on the lawnmower.
Yeah, because I think the other thing too is Lieutenant Dan was probably super grateful for this guy.
Yeah,
just being persistent. I mean, how dumb of somebody to be like, well, I made a promise that I'd be a shrimp boat captain. I don't even know anything about shrimp, but he taught me everything there is to know.
Yeah,
and he gave his share to Bubba's family.
Yeah, Woo. The mom, she passes out. Yeah.
I wonder how much money they must have had.
Oh, who knows? But I did like the moment, and I don't know if this is too much detail, when they catch the shrimp and he's like, oh, get a couple more. You almost have enough for a shrimp cocktail.
You almost have a cocktail. Hey, you ever named this boat? It's bad luck to have a boat without a name.
know immediately. Yeah.
I can only think of one name.
And then he had how many ships in the fleet, and they named them all Jenny?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, something about. Remember when he gets the call that his mom is sick. She says something to Jenny 1.
Yeah.
So there's multiple boats.
When Forrest is first learning to play ping pong, they're in the infirmary or whatever, and the guy's
Just keep
teaching
your
him.
eye on the ball.
From that moment, every time he's playing ping pong, he doesn't blink.
Is that something you noticed, or is that something?
That's something I read, and then I watched it.
Gosh.
I read this before I watched it, and then I watched it, and I'm like, oh wow,
jeez, that is so much detail.
It's just like laser on it.
Gosh,
yeah. I mean, yeah, there were just a lot of like a lot of good details put in. That ping pong ball CGI.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Going back to Alan Silvestri, because he composed the music for this, but he also composed the music for the Back to the Future trilogy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So the Forrest Gump theme, and I have to go back and listen to this because I didn't notice this, but is a variation of the melody that plays in the beginning of Back to the Future 3. Everybody's favorite Back to the Future. But when Marty and Doc are sleeping in the living room, it's like, I have to go back and listen to it.
That's so funny. So did Jurassic Park, the first one, come out before this or after this?
Before.
I knew it because if you go back and watch the scene where the storm hits the shrimp boat, when it cuts to the it's all dark, the storm is like 100%. You hear the Tyrannosaurus Rex roar right at the beginning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude. I'm like, wait, what? I rewinded it.
I recognize that voice.
I'm like, that's the T-Rex sound. So I don't know. I don't know why that would be in there. I'm like, there's no
just a
tie
Easter egg kind of.
I guess the sound guys that were on the movie were like,
it's like the Wilhelm scream. Yeah, just put it in a T-Rex.
Let's put that in there. But that was really funny.
But it's really funny.
This movie is so, I think, iconic in that sense that I was just even today going through YouTube and I think just yesterday, Conan on his own podcast had Tom Hanks on.
Oh, really?
And they were talking about Forrest Gump. You know, in the portion I saw, they were talking about how they were Tom Hanks had doubts that maybe anybody would care about this movie.
Yeah.
You know? And that the whole park bench scene in Savannah, Georgia was all done in, I think, 2 days.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense for what you're doing.
They filmed that all at once. So everything on the park bench was all filmed on the same day.
Practically though, yeah. For
you have to.
You don't want things to look different.
Yeah. So it's kind of, you know, all of the things that he's talking about mentioning in the park bench, they hadn't filmed yet at all.
That's crazy. I was at
and
the
so
beginning.
They're thinking like, are people going to want to watch this dude sitting here at the bench talking?
Right.
And he asks Robert Zemeckis, like, are people like, how is this going to turn out? He's like, you know, and the quote that he says on there is really, really funny. You should watch it. He says, Robert Zemeckis says, well, you know, we're filming a landmine here. We don't know what's gonna be good or what's not. So we just got to do it. You know, it's just how it turns out. If people like it, whatever. People don't. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. And to imagine, like, it was nominated for so many awards. I think it won like 6 Academy Awards or something.
And it made
like
so much money. Oh, you know how we said that they put up their own money to finish filming the running around the world, running around the US. They put up $1 million of their own money, but the movie itself made over a few $100 million. So they made their money and then some from it. And the soundtrack. Another thing that I learned from that Netflix episode was the soundtrack. The studio was like, you have to find different music. You can't use this music because it costs too much money to use these songs.
Oh, yeah.
So then they released it like a pre-screening thing with the songs on there. And the executives loved it so much that they were like,
we'll pay for it.
Crap, you can't replace this music. You got to use it. So they had to like put up the money and use it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes such a big difference.
It was one of those rules, one of those things where you just do it and ask for forgiveness later. That they literally did that with this movie all the way through.
What a tough slog. And you talk about Forrest Gump and his overcoming obstacles and stuff, but they're really, when you come to the production of this movie, apples and oranges, but like how many people turned down roles? You know, all the people that were up for like the role of that they asked to do Jenny or that asked to play Forrest Gump or that just said no.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't write them all down, but I read that alternate Forrest Gumps, Bill Murray was asked, John Travolta and Chevy Chase all turned it down. And Bill Paxton was one of the initial choices for Forrest Gump, but the studio wanted somebody with more star power. And it said the author, whose name is Winston Groom, by the way, had always envisioned John Goodman as Forrest Gump.
What? Yeah. John Goodman?
Because I guess he's like 300 pounds in the novel, Forrest is, which is a whole different thing too.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works with all the running.
Exactly. The heck? Oh, do you know there's one scene where Tom Hanks was like sick or something and he couldn't film one of the scenes where he's running on the pier. You know, when he gets to like
Maine or something?
Yeah. And he turns around. I got to look it up again, but it's somebody, it's not him.
It's his brother, right? Because I read that for something they used his brother.
Yeah, it's his brother and not him. So that's pretty crazy.
That is crazy. I saw that because I also read he had the flu during one of the football running scenes.
Oh, really?
Which led me to this other fact. Robin Wright had a cold when they were shooting the film of her in the nightclub.
Oh, gosh.
And she had to sing, but also she was wearing practically nothing. And it was like
she's wearing like a nude suit.
It was a 24-hour shoot.
Oh, gosh. 24 hours? Why would that take so long?
I don't know. That's what I was like, can this be true? But I don't know.
It's a bunch of guys on set. Let's do it again.
This poor woman is sick, singing, cold. No, thank you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm cold and sick. No, we can't.
Yeah, well, you know that the water that he spilt on you, that didn't look right. Can we do that again?
Yeah.
Can you dry her up, which takes a few times?
Well, no, they did. Jeez. I did read that they specified that they get thrown like at her legs or whatever, so they didn't have to, do that all over and over again.
Well, they probably still did it a few times.
I don't know. Those are the things too. Talk about being scandalized as a child or whatever that I just can't even imagine as an actor. Like my kids are like, Dad, if you had to swear if you were in a movie and you had to swear, would you do it? And I'm like, I don't. Maybe later in my life now, we'll read classic literature, like Peter Pan. I don't know if you know this, but Tinkerbell swears.
In Peter Pan?
Yeah, in the original book.
Oh, wow.
I remember having a teacher in high school in like first year of English, freshman year. And, Christian high school, whatever, we were all sheltered on some level. Yeah. But I can't remember what book the teacher was reading. Like, I don't know if it was To Kill a Mockingbird or some classic like that, but it had a lot of language in one particular chapter. And she just prefaced this ahead of time, like, okay, guys, class, I'm just letting you know, I'm just reading a chapter of it every day.
Yeah.
There's some language in here. I'm just going to read it all. And that was the most entertaining class for all of us, like freshmen, Christian kids. And like Miss Pollard is like reading all these like words and throwing them in there. But I'm like, I maybe have an easier time dropping like a mild swear word than I would sitting there naked with a guitar.
Probably. Well, she is wearing something.
Well, whatever.
Well, because so I remember one of the memories I have is watching that scene, younger, high school or whatever.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the shot where they take from the back, from her.
When Forrest is talking to her?
From her perspective to the room, the camera's behind her. So you kind of see her back. I remember thinking, oh, she's naked. She's not wearing anything. Like I can see like butt cheeks. And then watching it this time, I'm going, I can clearly see that she's wearing underwear.
Well, thank God.
Yeah. So however it was filmed for whatever format it was.
Oh, it was designed.
You wouldn't kind of see that.
But
now with an HD, you can totally see those details. And we're like, oh, she is wearing a suit. So even if she's walking around, it's supposed to look like she's naked, but she's really covered up.
No, I don't know.
But I don't know how comfortable it is or how warm it makes it. If that room was cold.
Warm.
It's probably really thin linen or whatever.
I don't know, but that was another one where I had the remote was in like a holster. I'm like, come here, come on, nothing, come on. Got kids in the room.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, poor Forrest.
Yeah, poor Forrest. Poor Jenny.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm saying the whole movie.
Did you know Sally Field is only 10 years older than Forrest Gump? Than Tom Hanks.
Than Tom Hanks, yeah.
Forrest Gump too.
Did you know that Sally Field doesn't watch her own movies?
I did. I can't remember where I heard that.
I don't think she ever seen this movie. You. She's probably never seen this movie.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know how you do that.
I don't know. But I had also read that in some other movie I've not seen, she played a love interest for Tom Hanks before this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that she's playing his mom.
You know, what's this movie, I guess you could sum it up to like one of its biggest themes is, I guess, destiny or do we live like predestined to live a certain life, or is it all just random occurrences?
He has a line at the end where he says
there are
a little bit of both.
I believe it's a little bit of both. You know, are we floating around? Are we floating around in the wind, just taken by the wind, or are we destined to do stuff? And he's like, I think both are happening at the same time. And I'm like, that's kind of, I don't know how I feel about that, like theologically,
yeah.
right? You know? But I can totally see how, you know, we do have, I think we're destined to have the life that we have, that that plays out, but we choose, you know, whether we go left or right, you know, and there's a certain randomness of it that it feels random, but a lot of times because of who you are, you're going to make a decision whether to do one thing or the other. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, this could get real deep, and we're already at like the end here. But I will say, like, there is, there's so much built into us that we don't necessarily have a choice about. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Who your family is, where you're born, what DNA you have. Like, you're not making these choices. And a lot of choices are made for you when you're growing up, family, experience, whatever. Things happen to you, you can't control. But I think what this movie displays very well, and when he makes that statement at the end, what helps it make sense is, you know, here's a person who just did and didn't let it affect them. Mm. And I was watching a video that my brother-in-law sent me about communication strategies and the way that we present ourselves to other people, and how, you know, even facial expressions you make will determine how other people respond. It's just all these minute details that some people study. I don't. I find them really fascinating.
Yeah, interesting.
But all of those things can influence the way that you act. And truthfully, like, I know personally, even the way that I hold myself, posture, things that I have to remind myself, either when singing or speaking or just out riding my bike and not wanting to pull a muscle in my back, will affect my experience, right? Yeah. And so we live in a society that's now, it's all about like, are you spending time, you know, even breathing, you know, your watch is like, you know, and we're like, oh, whatever.
Breathe. Take some time to breathe.
But when you think about it, like the reason you build in those habits in your life is so you're not thinking about it. Mm. And as a singer, like, this is where it comes up for me, then I'm not straining my voice anymore. It's because of, we were just singing, literally we had rehearsal last night. Are you guys doing Thursday rehearsals yet?
Not yet. Next week.
Okay. So we've been Thursday rehearsals forever. And, one thing I realized is we're singing this old song this week that we haven't done in a while. We do it a lot. It's not new. But I heard myself sing it in my old voice.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Like way back when. And I'm like, I'm so far beyond it. I feel like I've gotten better at certain things. But all of a sudden I was like, why am I singing like that? It was because I just tread the grass of this same song over and over and over again, that my voice just went right back. And
That's funny. That's funny.
And
dude.
It's like, oh, wow, these weird little details can affect my experience and how I'm like destiny or whatever.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, for us, like when we go back to superpowers of Forrest Gump, what I really want is to be able to act in the world with that kind of persistent, it's not that he doesn't care, but not influenced by anything other than what really matters.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, he's not a perfect person. He's making whatever decisions, and some of his ideas are wrong.
Yeah.
But to just be able to do it and not be influenced by everything else.
Yeah, I mean, he was very influenced by his mother. I mean, the whole thing starts off with my mom.
Yeah.
She always had a way of making me saying things to where I can understand it. Because he doesn't have a dad. Like, what's vacation? It's when somebody goes away and doesn't come back. Oh. Whoa, hold on.
So I was like, why'd you say that?
Yeah. You know, someone's going to mention vacation to him as an adult. And he's going to think, oh, they're going to disappear.
It needs to be like a prequel where you get Sally Field's story, because I feel like there's a lot there. You know?
But it's one of those things where he was very much, and I don't know how many people are like this in real life, but he was steered a certain way, and he took it to heart and he based all his choices off of, well, I was told to be this way, so I'm going to do it. Just like everything else that he does. Don't take your eye off the ball. All right, run. Okay, I'm going to run. Like, so if his mother said, always be honest and don't do anything that would hurt somebody, as far as like, but always protect, if somebody needs help, protect them.
Yeah.
Okay, he just went that line.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, watching this movie, I kept thinking, he was basically doing like the very basics of life, of do unto others, and I don't know, and be useful, I guess.
Contribute, sort of.
Contribute where people want you to contribute, or where you know, that's it. I mean, at the very basic, you know, because if you're going to go into the military, you just got to do what you're told. And he excelled because he just was really good at doing what he was told to do. Somebody who rebelled wouldn't succeed in that type of environment.
Right.
In all situations of life. If, like, when he goes to DC, somebody grabs him and puts him in line, and he's like, "Okay, I guess I'm in line now." He's like, "No, you don't have to be in line. You know, you're your own person." But he's like, "No, someone told me to do this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it." You know, tell us about the war in Vietnam. This guy liked it. He liked to use the F word a lot. You know,
when he did, everybody clapped. Yeah. I don't know what the line is, but that was so funny.
And he's like, "Tell us about the war in Vietnam. The war in Vietnam. The war in Vietnam." Yeah. And then he talks.
But the guy unplugs
everything, and he says, "That's all I got to say about that." I wonder what he said there, but he's basically just saying, this is what it was like. I just did what I was, probably when he was telling them what it was like, you know, Lieutenant Dan told us to get down, shut up. And so we got down and we shut up. Like, it's just doing what you're told. And he's probably saying that, you know, in Vietnam was just, we had to just do what we were told. So super, super simple way of looking at life that, okay, if you walk through life just doing not the bare minimum, but just being honest and true at every situation you're doing, maybe the outcome comes out to be something, you know, better than somebody who thought they needed to do, you know, die at war and not live and have a second chance at life.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is. And again, like, and I guess they probably had that framing device throughout the whole movie where this is the point. This is destiny versus free will versus choice, you know, and the mixture of both, and putting life in front of you that gives you examples where, because we can easily, not easily, but we can all come to an opinion and say, nope, you don't have a choice, or it's all choice. But when you're face to face with a person, like you said, like Lieutenant Dan is in Forrest's life and he starts interacting with him and then feeling like the relational tension, you get in somebody's experience and then you start realizing, oh, there's way more going on here, which is funny because in Forrest's mind, it's just not that at all. It's this or that.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's crazy.
You know?
I mean, and then one of the lessons to take away too is you know, Jenny's life. You know, all the stuff that you did, at the end of the day, it didn't really pay out very well because she had to. I mean, she did the only good thing that she ever did at the end was go, hey, this is your kid. I'm going to die. I want him to have a dad and he's your kid. So,
I don't know if I'd say the only good thing. I mean, I get what you mean.
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah.
You know, because all your choices had consequences.
Right.
You know.
But, you know, they're all bookmarks in Forrest's life too, where her bad decision, you know, even him at the rally, right? And he meets her there because she's on a whole like course trajectory of bad choices, you know, right?
Crazy.
That led her there. And then he comes to defend, like, you know, and I feel like that's what life is. It's like, well, this person's making great decisions. This one's not. This person's a mixture of both. And then yet here comes this moment that nobody could have planned. And especially in the idea of this kid, you know, this big, huge blessing that comes out of a mess.
Yeah. Crazy.
Right?
You know, the only time he ever makes his opinion known is when he tells her, like, you know what I think? You should come back to Greenbow, Alabama.
Yeah.
Whoa. That was the only time that he ever said, like, this is what you should do. Like, he spoke up for himself, I guess.
Right. I don't know if this is letting the cat out of the bag here, but I actually know what Forrest said when they unplugged the mic.
Do you really?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He says, and I found this a couple places when I was looking and I didn't write it down, but just now I Googled it. So now this is the AI overview. So I can't even tell you how I know this other than it might be in special scenes or in subtitles or something. But he says, I'm going to say this in Forrest voice in my best ability.
Okay.
Sometimes when people go to Vietnam, they go home to the mamas without any legs. Sometimes they don't go home at all. That's a bad thing. That's all I have to say about that.
He said that in that whole time.
No, I don't know. That's what AI tells you. Somebody else knows a different answer.
Oh, funny.
Who knows?
I love how that lady like takes the baton out of the guy's like that soldier, and she's like trying to.
Yeah. Yeah, but that guy next to him was really moved by it.
Yeah, I mean, so that whole time period in U.S. history was pretty crazy bad too. You know.
Oh well, yeah, but
the whole reason why we were in Vietnam and all that kind of stuff, and I had to like read up about it a little bit too. It was like, why were we there? You know,
because you had to explain to your kids who were asking. Because that's what I feel like.
I was trying to. I asked Elizabeth. She's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, let's look this up. You know, the boyfriend of Jenny at the Black Panther party is like, who's the baby killer? You know, because there's a lot of bad stuff that happened. I don't understand why soldiers were doing that kind of stuff, but I think you could have said, I think people would be in the right if you have the opinion of like, we shouldn't have been there.
Oh yeah. But I think, you know, I get it. But what I think is, because I'll have conversations with people and they go, or even the time that we live in, like things, you know, are really bad, blah, blah. But if you take a lens and zoom into any part of human history, you know,
there's some bad, yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much, but also so much good that comes out of it. And that's what I think this movie does really well.
Yeah.
Here's a time period. It's very specific, but also this is the human story.
Yeah.
So with that in mind,
so crazy.
What do we think of this?
Well, I'm always going to think this movie is great. For me, it has everything from like passion, funny moments, real emotion, and adventure, like magic.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot
it
going
brings
on.
It all together.
It really does.
How did your household react?
Well, so I just watched it with Elizabeth because we weren't quite ready to see if the kids would watching all the other. You know,
yeah.
I hate skipping around. So if I feel like if I have to skip around, I might as well just wait. You know, just wait. But yeah, I think the emotion. I think Elizabeth started watching with me a little bit towards the middle, towards the end. But right away, the emotion is something that really does carry well.
Yeah.
And portrayed really well. So, and I mean, I think this movie, if you haven't seen it, is so worth it to see it. I don't think it's a nostalgia thing. It might be a nostalgia thing, like when you grow up with a character, you grow up with a story that you know really well. But as a movie, I think everybody can find something in this movie that they would like. I think even if you hate it, there's probably something in it that you thought was really cool. Yeah. That's my opinion about it.
Honestly, like I said, I'd only seen it like a handful of times, maybe less. And coming back to it now, I was just really struck in so many ways. I can't think of a bad actor in this movie. There wasn't a time outside of like funny CGI President's Mouth moving where I will take that and it's fine. There was never a moment where I felt removed from reality. It's ridiculous. Yeah. You know, but it all felt very human and very well done, where it just like draws you in to a human story. And I will say, like, for me as an adult, but then also, you know, my teenagers who I think appreciated it, maybe not exactly for the same reasons. Yeah. But it wasn't like, you know, oh guys, let's watch this. Oh, this is a bummer. I don't want to watch it. Everybody was engaged. Even my little guys. Yeah. 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 Dad, why are you skipping this? Then we'll talk about it later. They get it.
They do such a great job with this movie of pulling at your heartstrings and bringing you into this, like really making you love this character, and maybe in some ways making you want to be a little like Forrest. Yep. You know, one of my other memorable scenes to me is when he finally has Jenny, and he's taking care of her. She's in his mom's bed. Mm-hmm. Oh, and so sad. She finally starts asking him what it was like to be in Vietnam, or what it was like running. And he says something like, "Oh, you should have seen it. The sunrise on the desert. Oh. You can't tell where, you know, heaven begins and earth ends. You know, earth ends and heaven begins." And she's like, "I wish I was there with you." And he was like, "Well, you were." Oh, it's like, oh gosh, like I think we all carry someone like that in our hearts, whether they're even passed away or they're still with us. There's someone you have with you in all your experiences. That you're thinking about them. they're that close, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That moment for me is, or that the whole story with Forrest with Jenny is really a thing of like loving your loved ones, and instead of just saying it, showing it.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is necessarily intentional. I think it is. But his character, as you were just saying that, I'm thinking not living with any sort of regret.
Yeah.
Because Jenny in that moment is like really like regretting missing out, regretting whatever. But in the whole time Forrest is telling this whole thing, it's very matter of fact. This happened, and then this, and then I did this, and this is what you do, and da-da-da. And it was just, this is life. I'm living it. Here's where I am now. Going to keep going.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are moments maybe, like you said, once he finally realized how much he loved her. And I mean, he always knew or whatever. But I just feel like that's the inspirational message for me. Is like, past is past. It is.
Yeah.
Don't ignore it. It happened. And now here we are now.
Yep.
Don't cry over
spilled milk.
There it is. We did tie that together.
Yeah. And Forrest is still, still waiting at the bus stop for his kid to come home. Iconic.
So good. All right. Well, everybody, let us know what you think.
Yes,
and
please.
When I say that, I mean it.
Yeah.
And what I mean is you can do that right now. You can look right underneath on the episode on Spotify and you can scroll to the poll. That's my new phrase for 2025. Scroll to the poll. Because right down beneath this episode on Spotify, you can vote on whether or not you agree with Josue and I, which I think we're both saying it holds up.
It holds up.
But you may watch this and go, stupid is as stupid does.
Yeah, if you think this movie is terrible, let us know and let us know why.
Yeah, maybe you think it's all nostalgia.
And I won't judge you for being wrong, but go ahead.
Hey, you can find links not only to Spotify, but everywhere else. We are at wdyt.show. That's what do you think? So no matter where you're listening or where you want to listen, or if you just need a quick link to Spotify, you can find it there. But before we end things today, I did want to close the loop.
It's like a snake eating its own tail.
So we did some re-releases, as you remember. One, I want to mention for anybody maybe that came in late and listened to some of those, that there are already some loops that have been closed.
Nice.
So if you're screaming at your headphones like, I know Lloyd Bridges was not in Naked Gun, or I want to know exactly how long Michael Corleone was injured, don't worry, we talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
It's on another episode. But our last re-release that is now on video was when Jimmy was here with us and we were talking about Alice. Through the Looking Glass. And I asked the question, I said, when do you think Humpty Dumpty was first considered or illustrated or depicted as an egg?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I looked it up because I was listening back to the episode and I never actually looked it up.
That's funny.
Humpty Dumpty became associated with eggs after Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass was published in 1871. That was the first time that we know that he was actually visualized, depicted as an egg.
Where did they get the idea from then?
Well, I mean, it's always kind of seeded in there. So here, I'm going to go back. The original story of Humpty Dumpty was way before Carroll. Right?
So it was just in words that he was probably an egg? Or he was an egg?
Because of the way that it's talked about.
Oh my gosh,
Some theories about what he could be include a cannon. I've heard this before, that Humpty Dumpty was a military cannon, the name of a cannon used by a certain, a royalist during the English Civil War. Another one was that the riddle was that Humpty Dumpty would be an egg because it was hard to fix once broken, like you said. Another one believed Humpty Dumpty could be King Richard III, who had a horse that was named Wall.
Oh, wow.
So it could have been that.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
There are a couple lyrical adaptations of this. The traditional
That's so
one.
Funny.
All the king's horses and king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
Yeah.
There's another, if you go way back, 80 men and 80 more could not make Humpty Dumpty where he was before. So maybe a little more confusing there.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
80 men and 80 more cannot place Humpty Dumpty as he was before. There's a lot of that. But one thing that I found particularly interesting was, let me see if I can find it here. A.J. Lamar suggested that Carroll's Humpty Dumpty had prosopagnosia on the basis of his description of his finding faces hard to recognize. So
wow. Yeah.
So the face is what one goes by generally, Alice says to him. And the Dumpty says, he says that this is in Carol's book. That's just what I complained of. Your face is the same as everybody has. 2 eyes, nose in the middle, mouth under, unless you're Charlie Brown. It's always the same. So who knows? But there's a lot of backstory there to
That's so crazy.
Mr. Dumpty. But now I think most people probably think he's an egg.
That's a lot to think about on just Humpty Dumpty.
I know.
Crazy.
Wait till we get to the end of season 2. My closing the loop notes are going to be so long.
I can't wait.
Well, the question I have is, what's next?
Yeah, what is next?
Well, the quick answer is you tell us. And the way that you can do that is by emailing your suggestions to Lieutenant Dan at wdyt.show. Or you could just email him to ideas@wdyt.show. And when I say email him, what does that mean? We've been talking about this for weeks, but
send us in a little short memo of your recording of you with your suggestion, and we'll use that as our intro to that episode.
Yeah, voice memo. Just give us a 2-liner, why you think we ought to revisit whatever.
Yeah, right off your phone.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything, complicated or anything. If you're not sure and you just want to be a voice on our show,
yeah,
you can just let us know, and because we have a list of movies we're going to hit next and other things, and we'll just give you an intro to do, or maybe a couple to choose from.
Exactly. Yeah. We have a list of things that we were going to hit, and so let us know, and we'll add you to it.
Yeah, which would be great. I'm really looking forward to playing some of those. I'm not sure whether or not we used one of those this week. In real time, we haven't actually put the intro in yet. So I don't know whose voice is on this episode, but I'm sure it might be a good one. Or we re-recruited some of our family.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to say a big thank you to everybody who has already taken 5 seconds to give us 5 stars.
Yes.
On Apple, Spotify, or to just hit that little like on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Keep giving us the stars. Keep sharing. Helps us out a lot.
That is the biggest help. Yeah. Anybody who shares anything, whether it's our Instagram channel or something on YouTube or, Spotify or Apple.
Yeah.
Anytime you share, it's a big help to us. You can find links to all that at wdyt.show. And an extra special thanks to anybody who has reviewed, which is the best way for people to find us.
So, reviews are so good.
So if you're looking for somewhere to put your comment and you think, I could just go and give 5 stars and then tell us what you think about Forrest Gump, that's even better. So, well, thank you, Josue. This was, I think, a great thing to hit the first episode of season 2.
It's like the repeat of Jurassic Park, a really high note, a really great movie.
But it's not all downhill from here.
Nope.
I'm really wondering where Forrest Gump is going to land at the end of the season.
Yeah, we got to make this competitive.
Yeah. So I didn't even say, next week we're hitting one of my favorite movies.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And the tie-in is Mr. Tom Hanks. This is another one of his, but he's not necessarily the main guy, although he sort of is. We're going to be watching That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do.
Yeah. And this one I have seen more times than I can count.
Yeah, I think I've seen this. I think they've seen this movie once, so I'm excited to rewatch it again.
It's the reversal.
It's going to be a good one for me to like get a bunch of stuff on. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. And then we'll have to take a break from Mr. Tom Hanks because I feel like we got a lot of options.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he's so great.
I mean, just him and Gary Sinise alone.
I know.
Apollo 13.
Makes me want to watch Apollo 13.
Yeah, not soon.
That smile they have at the end of the movie. When Forrest is about to get married.
Yeah.
Between Tom Hanks and Gary Sinise, the smiles back and forth. I'm like, these guys are great.
They're great. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us on What Do You Think of This?
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.